best, worst, and most mid movie that I watched in 2024. Let's talk about it. So I watched about 41 movies this year. Not all of them came out in 2024, but that of the movies that made this list or of the contenders, only one of that only applies to one of them. So I'm going to start with the best, then move on to the most mid movie that I watched this year, and then end with the worst movie that I watched in 2024. So, best. Only two contenders for best movie. Option one is Wicked, part one, or Origin. So Origin came out in either November or December of 2023, but I watched it in January 2024. Wicked the movie is based on the musical and is the origin story of Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, and follows her during her time at Shiz University, where she meets and becomes friends with Glinda, the Good, an incredible movie that had me happy for weeks after I watched it. Origin, directed by Ava DuVernay. It's based on the book Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. An incredible movie that had me in tears in the theater. Origin follows the writer, Isabel Wilkerson, as she investigates caste systems throughout the world, including in the United States. And she's like threading these things together. And the movie is essentially exploring how the caste system or caste systems are bigger than racism. Blew my mind. I learned a lot. I'm going to give it to Origin as the best movie that I watched in 2024, simply because, first of all, Origin is a complete story in and of itself. Wicked gave me part one, and I'm a Wicked newbie. So I don't know how it's going to end. And by the way, I did review all of these movies that I'm going to talk about. So if you're interested, I can tag you. Wicked has a lot going on and is very open to interpretation, whereas Origin is very direct about what it is exploring and what it is trying to tell you. And so for that reason, it is the best movie that I watched in 2024. The most mid movie that I watched in 2024. Again, two contenders. Number one, The Book of Clarence. Number two, Bob Marley, One Love. Okay? So the Book of Clarence follows Clarence. Clarence exists in Jesus' time. He is a scamming non-believer out here stealing from people and all that jazz. And the movie follows him as he pretty much follows the same path as Jesus. The problem being that Jesus exists in this time period. Like, they acknowledge Jesus. We even get a glimpse of Jesus at one point. And the biggest flaw with that movie, it was not interesting. It was really Black people in biblical garments, which beautiful, beautiful gowns, moisturized skin, but the story was not interesting. And the biggest strike against it for me was that, like, why should I care about Clarence when Jesus of Nazareth is having the more interesting story? The movie didn't answer that. Bob Marley, One Love was a biopic, I think, about Bob Marley. Best thing about that movie was the songs. The story was not engaging at all. The actors did a great job, and I'm not remembering who was in it. It's Homeboy from he was in that Disney Plus show with Nick Fury, Gravith, I think he played. Beautiful man. And Lashana Lynch was in it. Love her. So yeah, it was about Bob Marley, but that one, it was pretty methodical, hitting step one, step two, step three of his life. And I didn't get a lot from it. I rated it very low. So between these two movies, The Book of Clarence, Bob Marley, One Love, the most mid movie of 2024, didn't offend, but didn't do anything. Went in with high expectations, came out disappointed. The most mid movie is The Book of Clarence. Because at the very least, Bob Marley, One Love had Bob Marley songs on the soundtrack. The Book of Clarence did have a dance number, but it was a waste of time to go see that movie. So, moving on to the worst movie of 2024, and actually have three contenders for this part. Okay, so the middle of that clip got cut somehow, so let me do this again. The three movies are Mea Culpa, Madam Web, and The American Society of Magical Negroes. Three contenders for the worst movie of 2024. Yes, I did that to myself, but they also did it to me. Mea Culpa is a story about a woman named Mia Harper, played by Kelly Rowland. She is married. She is a lawyer, Olivia Pope wannabe, who takes on the case of a famous painter who has been accused of unaliving his lover. So she has been hired. She's a defense attorney. She's been hired to represent him. He gets to painting her. They keep meeting in his studio. Mia is a terrible lawyer. I opened that review with the line, I sincerely apologize to myself for doing this to me, or something like that. This is my lowest rated movie of the year. I rated this movie a 0.5 stars out of 5. But is it the worst movie of the year? Then there's Madam Web. Madam Web is in the Marvel universe, kind of, maybe. I think it came out from Sony. This young woman, I don't remember her name, she gains powers similar to Spider-Man, pretty much. Madam Web. She gains these powers. Girl, I do not remember how. That movie was a puzzle to me after I finished seeing it, because of the problems that it had. It had audio problems. The script was atrocious, which, I mean, so was Mea Culpa's script. But the audio issues, I'm just baffled by the decision to release this movie, because some parts of it were legit. It came off like it was dubbed. The American Society of Magical Negroes was supposed to be a movie critiquing the magical Negro trope in movies. The magical Negro trope, if you don't know, is a trope used in Hollywood, or Hollywood uses it, so it became a trope, in which the Black character exists solely to advance the story, the life, the journey of the white main character. They are usually a flat, two-dimensional character, but that's the trope. And so the American Society of Magical Negroes was supposed to be critiquing that. What it ended up doing is writing a movie about a magical Negro. Like, the character ended up being a magical Negro. And I went in that movie expecting it to be bad. I actually went to go see how bad it was going to be, and it was bad. Which is the worst, though, out of these three abominations? One thing I will give the American Society of Magical Negroes is that it is coherent. Okay? Technically, it is fine. The script is fine. It has a beginning, middle, and end. It makes sense. Nothing threw me for a loop. I never wondered how we got here. So for that reason, it's not the worst movie I've watched. Mea Culpa, Madam Web. Mea Culpa is a horrible movie. But despite the out of nowhere violence, the random degradation of Mia by her husband, the terribly choreographed fight scenes and chase scenes, the convoluted nature of the plot, at least the audio was working. At least the sound people came to work. And the sound people may have been Tyler Perry, for all I know. It's not the worst movie. The worst movie of 2024 goes to Madam Web. It had a terrible script, continuity errors, an unrootable main character, a horrible villain. Nothing made sense. The actress playing the main character looked like she did not want to be there. Like, she hated every single line she was saying. And on top of all of that, technically it is also a bad movie. The CGI is terrible. I cannot get over the sound. The villain was talking, his mouth was moving, and then the sound came in afterwards. How anyone could hold their heads high and walk any carpet, red, frayed, brown, dirty, how anyone could walk on any carpet after working on this movie, I do not know. I just checked, and this movie, Mea Culpa is not the only movie that got a low score. Madam Web also got 0.5 stars out of 5. So very appropriate then that it is the worst movie that I've watched in 2024. Those are my best worst and most mid movies of 2024. I would love to hear yours, and I will see you next year in 2025.